How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto fall in love with Inner Moka? Part 3. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Where the hell is she? A random student shouted. I don't know but we have to find her. Another shouted. She is going to pay. A third one shouted as the group of 3 students looked around trying to find their target. Sitting on a tree branch out of view from them, a little girl was sitting down as she watched them with a grin. She reached into her backpack and pulled out 3 banana peels. Waving the wand in her hand around, the banana peels levitated in the air before flying towards the students before they landed in front of them. Not paying attention, the boys took a step forward and as one they slipped on the peel and landed on the ground. What now? One of them groaned as he rubbed his head. It's definitely her fault. Another one muttered. When I get my hands on that witch she's going to pay. The third one added as he glared at nothing. We're not going to find her by just standing here. The second one said. The other 2 nodded and they took another step forward and then fell to the ground face first. They looked at their feet only to find their shoelaces tied together. Gaining a tick mark, they took their shoes off and ran in a random direction. When we find you, you'll be sorry, Sendo. They shouted. Once they were gone, the little girl couldn't take it anymore. She dissolved into a fit of giggles until it became hysterical laughter as she clutched her sides trying not to lose her balance. Not bad, Yukari-chan. A voice from above said, startling her. The young witch looked up to see Naruto casually lying down on the branch above her with a fox-like grin on his face. Naruto, what are you doing here? She asked with a smile. I came to visit my friend and I find her playing pranks, but I hope you remembered my rules. He said as he looked at her. Nodding, Yukari pulled out a small notepad, flipped a few pages and began to read. Yep. When pranking someone, make sure it is someone who deserves it. Try to avoid pranking the innocent unless it would be really funny. Yukari read. Looks like you were paying attention to my classes after all. Naruto said, pleased as he jumped off the branch and landed on the ground gracefully. Instead of jumping, Yukari carefully climbed down until she reached the ground besides the blonde. So Naruto, how's Ura-san? Yukari asked as the 2 began to walk around. Oh, you know Ura-chan. One moment she's pretty nice to me and then 5 seconds later she says something sarcastic and then rolls her eyes while calling me an idiot. Naruto answered with a shrug, causing Yukari to giggle. Anyway, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time you meet my other friends. Naruto said casually while Yukari fidgeted a bit nervously. I don't know, I've been really busy with my studies. She said. Are you're afraid they'd treat you like the other students around here? He said calmly while Yukari stiffened a little since he was right. Maybe. She admitted as she looked at the ground. Naruto sighed as he stopped walking and placed a hand on her shoulder, causing him to look up. Relax, Yukari-chan, you have nothing to worry about. Omote-chan is one of the sweetest girls alive and she's always looking forward to making new friends. Tsukune is also a good guy, and as for Kurama-chan, she's a bit eccentric but she's a good girl. Just don't get in her way when she tries to get Tsukune, Naruto added in thought. Are you sure it will be alright? Yukari asked attentively. She would like to make new friends, but for all she knew they could turn out like everyone else. Of course it will. Besides, I'll be there too. He added. Yukari thought about it before nodding her head. Okay, if you're sure it will be okay, I'll meet them. She stated with a small smile, earning a grin from the blonde. Alright then. I'll find you after school and take you to the newspaper club. We all joined it so everyone will be there. Naruto informed as the bell rang. Okay then, I'll see you later, Naruto. Yukari said as she ran to her next class. Hopefully by the end of the day she would meet some new people who would accept her, despite her being a witch. End of school. Yukari was walking through the halls heading for the bulletin board. Now that classes were over, the list of academic ranks would be posted around the school. She was confident that she would be number 1, but she wanted to look and be sure. As she walked towards her destination, she could hear a few students whispering about her and witches, none of what they said were compliments either. While she was still a bit hurt by them, she was able to handle them better. After all, she had a friend in Naruto, and although she didn't know Ura that well on a personal level, she was nice to her when they first met. Ignoring the insults thrown at her, she looked at the bulletin board and smiled when she saw she was ranked number 1 again. She took another look and saw that Ura was ranked 5th, while Naruto was ranked 152nd. Shaking her head, she smiled. Naruto wasn't the best student, but he was a good friend. She was about to leave and search for Naruto, but she heard the crowd around her go in an uproar. Amazing, Omote-san is ranked 13th. A random student said with hearts in his eyes. Not only does she have beauty, but she has brains too. Another one shouted. She's perfect. Another shouted as similar comments were shouted, but the pink-haired vampire paid no mind to them as she smiled when she saw her rank. Amazing, Omote-san, looks like I'll have to work hard and follow your example. Tsukune said with a smile as he was ranked 128th. It's not really that much of a big deal. Omote said as she blushed from the praise. I think I should get you to teach me some of your study methods so I can do better next time. Tsukune said, causing Omote to brighten up. Of course, and in exchange you can let me suck your blood. Does that sound alright, Tsukune? She asked, causing the human to face fault at the mention of his blood. While the two of them were talking, Yukari was watching them curiously. Omote and Tsukune. Are they the friends that Naruto was talking about? Maybe I should introduce myself to them now. The young witch thought. She took one step towards them but stopped and shook her head. No, it's probably better if I wait for Naruto. She decided before she turned around and was about to go when a familiar face approached her. Yukari Sendo, so nice to see you again. The class representative said as he looked at the little girl, disgust clearly seen in his eyes. What do you want? She asked in annoyance. Seems like Naruto had influenced her more than she thought. Her reaction caught him off guard since the last time they met she was terrified of him. Now that's no way to greet an old friend, is it? He asked in fake hurt. We're not friends. She growled as she tried to walk by him, but he stopped her. Unknowingly their confrontation caught the attention of Omote and Tsukune. The two of them started their way over there hoping to figure out what was going on. I'd watch your mouth, witch. Your blonde bodyguard isn't here to save you this time. The class representative said. Just because he isn't here doesn't mean you can boss me around. She shouted as she kicked the older student in the shin. Why, you little. That's it, I've had about enough of you. He shouted as he was about to hit Yukari. The young witch closed her eyes awaiting the pain, but like the last time it never came. She opened her eyes and was surprised at what happened. Standing in front of her was Omote, who stared defiantly at the class representative. What are you doing? Omote asked, shocked that someone would strike a little girl. The class representative stared at her and gritted his teeth in frustration. First it was that damn Uzumaki kid, and now this. You got lucky again, Sendo, but pretty soon it will run out. I have no time for you. He said before turning around and walking away. Releasing a sigh of relief, Omote turned towards Yukari, who was looking at her in surprise. Why did you help me? She asked, earning a confused look from the pink-haired vampire. What do you mean why? I helped you because you needed it. Omote answered as if it were the most obvious thing, which to her it was. Thank you so much. My name is Yukari Sendo. She introduced with a bright smile. Isn't that the name of the first-rank student? That's you? Tsukune asked as he walked towards them. Amazing, you must be very smart. Omote complimented with a smile, causing Yukari to blush from the praise. It's nothing really, she said as she scratched the back of her head in a sheepish manner, something she picked up from Naruto. But Naruto. Naruto was now standing at the meeting place that he and Yukari agreed on, but there was one problem. Yukari was nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Did she just decide to leave? He asked. It's your own fault. You fell asleep at the end of class and now you're about 30 minutes late from the agreed time. Ura said. As she was walking through school she saw a sleeping Naruto and woke him up. After waking up he explained how he was going to introduce Yukari to the rest of the gang. It's not my fault that math is so boring. Naruto whined. Whatever, it is clear that she is not coming, so we might as well go to the club room. Ura stated. Yes, you're right. I'll just have to bring her over some other time. Naruto said as the two of them made their way to the club room. You guess I'm right. Please, I am always right. Ura said as she crossed her arms. The quote, a certain silver-haired vampire, I never knew you were so humble. Naruto teased with a smirk. Ura simply rolled her eyes, but there was a small smile on her face. As the two continued to walk, Naruto noticed that Ura seemed a bit off. She would glance at him every now and then, but quickly look away. It also looked like she wanted to say something but held her tongue. Something wrong, Ura-chan? Naruto asked as his curiosity got the best of him. No, everything's fine, Naruto. She said as her cheeks gained a light pink hue. You know, if something's wrong you can just tell me. He said. She was silent for a while, debating with herself if she should actually go through with this. Do you remember what we talked about on the roof after the incident with Jin? She finally asked. Naruto was quiet as he thought about the incident with the perverted wolf a few days ago. After a little bit of thinking he pounded a fist into an open palm. You told me to never use my sexy technique in front of you again. But wait, what does that have to do with anything? Naruto asked as he scratched his head in confusion. Ura felt her eye twitch at the reminder of the perverted technique but shook her head as she tried to remain calm. Not that. I meant what you said about your blood. She clarified. Oh right. I said you could suck my blood anytime you wanted, just give me a heads up. He said, tilting his head to the side, wondering what was on her mind. Yes, well, if the offer still stands, I was wondering if I could have some blood now. Her blush deepening as she looked at him with an uncharacteristically shy look. Naruto blinked 3 times as he just stared at her. Her words finally registered and he shook his head with a grin. That's what's been bothering you? I already told you it was okay. He said as he loosened the collar of his shirt and turned his head a bit to expose his neck to her. Nodding her head and smiling in gratitude, Ura stood in front of him and leaned closer to his neck. Her fangs extended and without saying anything she gently bit into his neck. The next thing she knew, an explosion of flavor happened as she lost herself in the taste of his blood. Naruto wrapped an arm around her waist to keep her balanced as she sucked his blood, releasing an occasional moan of pleasure causing him to blush. Having her fill, she released him and licked any excess blood off her fangs and lips. "Enjoy yourself?" Naruto asked as he noticed her dazed expression. Your blood is delicious," she said before she noticed how a frown made its way on his face. "What's wrong?" "It's just you didn't say Kapuchu like Omote-chan. I thought it would have been really cute if you did," he said, a bit disappointed, causing Yura's eye to twitch. "Idiot," she muttered as she shook her head and made her way towards the club. Naruto noticed that she had a bit of a spring to her step and wondered if his blood really that much of an effect on her. But then again he remembered Anko saying how delicious his blood was. Pushing those thoughts away, he followed Ura. The two of them reached the room and opened the door. They walked in and then walked back out to make sure they were in the right room. Sure enough, the number on the door was correct. They looked back into the room and were wondering what the hell was going on. "Ura-chan, is this actually happening?" Naruto asked in a confused tone. "I believe so," Ura said, just as stumped as her blonde friend. Right in front of them was Yukari Sendo, the witch that Naruto befriended. However, the thing that stumped them was the little witch was currently fondling Omote's wrists. The poor vampire's face was so red from embarrassment as she let out an involuntary moan from the action. Tsukune was on the side blushing up a storm as he sported a nosebleed. "Hey guys, what's going on?" Naruto asked, gaining the attention of the others. Yukari saw them and smiled before releasing Omote from her grasp as she ran over to them. "Naruto, Ura-san, you're here." She cheered as she jumped into the blonde's arms, giving him a hug. "It's been a while, Yukari. How have you been?" Ura asked as the witch left Naruto's arms before looking at the silver-haired girl. "I've been doing well, Ura-san. I was ranked number 1 again," she answered. "That's great, Yukari-chan," Naruto praised. "Indeed, it is rather impressive. It's a shame though. Since I was with this idiot I didn't get a chance to look at my own standing," Ura said as she pointed at Naruto, who began to sulk. "See what I mean, Yukari-chan? 1 minute she's nice, but 5 seconds later she's calling me an idiot," Naruto said as he cried in tears, causing Yukari to giggle. "If you're wondering what your scores were, you were ranked 5th, Ura-san," she said, causing Ura to gain a pleased smile. "Oh. Did you see what rank I got, Yukari-chan?" Naruto asked curiously. "You're 152nd, but don't worry, I'm sure you'll do better next time," Yukari said. "Is 152 the worst rank I could get?" Naruto asked. "No, but I'd say it is about just below average." "No idea if that's true or not," Ura answered. Hearing this, Naruto lowered his head, his hair shadowing his eyes. The others thought he was depressed about his grade, so they were surprised when he pumped his fist in the air with a huge grin on his face. "Yes. I'm not the dead last," he cheered, causing the others to sweat drop. After his own little celebration, he turned to Yukari. "So what was happening here?" "Ura-chan and I walked in on a very interesting scene," Naruto asked, Ura nodding, also wondering what was happening. "Oh that, well, it's simple really," Yukari said as she ran towards Omote and clung to her arm possessively. "Earlier today Omote-san defended me. She was so brave. Not only is she smart and beautiful, but she's also so heroic. I think this is what you call love at first sight," Yukari said with a dreamy expression. The other 4 occupants blinked at her declaration before her words sunk in. "EHHH," they shouted. Even Ura was surprised at what she said and couldn't hide it. "What on earth are you talking about?" Tsukune shouted. Yukari looked at him as if she was sizing him up before releasing a sigh. "Please try to stay out of our way," she said, the brown-haired boy. "Huh?" was the intelligent reply from Tsukune. "I know all about you. Your name is Tsukune Ono, grades average, athletic ability average, and you have no hobbies or anything that sets you apart from the other students here. Simply put, you are too plain to be around someone as radiant as Omote-san. In fact, you shouldn't act so friendly around Ura-san as well," Yukari explained. "No need to worry, Yukari. He is merely an acquaintance of mine," Ura supplied from her corner while Naruto had a cheeky grin. "I used to be one too, but then got promoted to friend," Naruto added, the whole time Tsukune's eye began to twitch uncontrollably. "Hey, wait a minute. Why am I the only one you're against? Naruto's grades are worse than mine," he protested. "Hey," came the indignant cry from Naruto. "He has a point," Ura said calmly as a rain cloud appeared over Naruto's head as he sulked. "You have a point, but compared to your stats, it isn't even fair to compare you to him. Name Naruto Uzumaki, grades below average." "Okay, we get it. I'm not the best student," Naruto cried while Omote patted his back trying to calm him down. Athletic ability is above average, hobbies include playing pranks and fighting. What sets him apart from the other students is that he is a capable fighter and has defeated multiple people without revealing his true form. He also has rare abilities such as walking on water. As you can see, the only thing you have against him is that you're slightly smarter than him in school, and even that isn't saying much. Yukari informed as she waved a dismissive hand at Tsukune. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure I just got insulted somehow, Naruto said slowly. You may not be the dead last, but you are far from being the sharpest nail in the toolbox, Kurama said from within his mind. Nails? Toolbox? What the hell do they have to do with being smart? Naruto asked confused. You've just proven my point. Kurama sighed before closing the link between the two of them. What the hell is it with everyone calling me an idiot today? Naruto thought to himself in frustration. He was snapped back into reality just in time to hear Yukari's declaration. I love Moka-san. I refuse to allow her to be brought into the dirt by you, she said as she pointed an accusing finger at Tsukune, who grew a tick mark in annoyance. Because of this I declare war on you, she said as she pulled out a small wand with a heart at the end of it. What are you going to do with a little toy? Tsukune deadpanned, causing Yukari's eye to twitch. I'll show you what this little toy can do when I use it to keep you away from Moka-san, Yukari shouted as she swung the wand around. The others watched but were a bit confused when nothing happened. Tsukune was about to say something but was interrupted when a book suddenly crashed into the back of his head. He rubbed the back of his head and turned around but saw that no one was behind him. What the who threw this at me? He asked. He turned around and saw another book heading right for him. He fell to the ground, rubbing his face trying to figure what was happening. He looked up and his eyes widened when he saw multiple books flying in the air above him. So are you impressed by my little toy? With this magic wand I am able to use magic to control these books, Yukari explained with a mischievous smile. With a single twist of if the rest the books in the air stopped their movement and fell onto the human, who groaned in pain. Know this, Tsukune. We witches are masters of magic and I will use everything I know to make you and other boys stay away from Omote-san, Yukari declared. She turned around to leave the room but paused and looked back at them. Naruto Ura-san. It was good to see you again, she said as she waved goodbye. See you around, Yukari-chan, Naruto called back as he waved at the girl. It was nice to meet you again, Yukari, Ura said as she nodded towards the witch before leaving. So what do you guys think about Yukari-chan? Naruto asked casually. She can be a bit excitable, but it is expected from one her age, Ura answered while Tsukune and Omote stared at them incredulously. Naruto noticed their looks and raised an eyebrow at them. What? Is there something on my face? He asked as he felt around his face trying to find something. How can you two act so calm? Did you not see just what happened? Tsukune asked as he waved his arms around comically. You're right, I did see what happened and it would appear that you have a serious problem, Tsukune, Naruto said, his tone becoming surprisingly serious. Tsukune blinked at the sudden change but sighed in relief. It looked like Naruto understood him after all. There's no telling how much Yukari could cause him with her magic. It would appear that you have a rival for Omote-chan's heart, he said seriously before he started to laugh as Tsukune's face faltered. Be serious here, he human shouted. Naruto calmed himself down before looking at Tsukune curiously. I am being serious. Now it's fair. Omote-chan and Kurama-chan are rivals for you, while you and Yukari-chan are rivals for Omote-chan, Naruto explained. Once his words registered, Omote and Tsukune blushed furiously. What are you talking about? They both shouted as Naruto laughed at their flustered appearances. Even Ura found this scene to be a bit amusing. What about you, Ura-san? Tsukune asked after regaining his composure. Ura looked at the human before shrugging her shoulders. If you want my honest opinion, then here it is. While I find her obsession with my sister odd, I have no problem with her personally. If she sticks with her objective of keeping hormonal boys away from her, then that is just a bonus, Ura explained, causing Tsukune's head to slump. I have a feeling she will be responsible for a lot of my future headaches, the human groaned. Relax, Tsukune, I'm sure she'll warm up to you, Omote tried to reassure him. A short while later, Kurama arrived and the group began their club activity. Soon Omote left the room in order to find Nekonim-sensei. Ura decided to go with her in order to make sure none of her fanboys get any funny ideas. Naruto decided to go with them in order to give Kurama and Tsukune some alone time, much to Tsukune's despair and Kurumu's delight. Yukari-sendo? Kurama asked after Tsukune explained what happened before she arrived. Yay, that little girl is going to be the death of me. And she also said she's going to keep Omote-san away from me, Tsukune stated as he banged his head against the desk he was sitting at. What he didn't know was that Kurama had some very pleasant thoughts. This is great. Because of this, Yukari, my biggest obstacle for Tsukune's heart, is taken away. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but thank you. She mentally cheered now that a rival in love would be too preoccupied with the little witch. I have heard some rumors about her though. Even though she's a genius they say she acts like a selfish kid. She always— Really? He asked, but what they didn't see was the tip of a witch hat that could be seen by the window. Yukari was crouched down hiding by the window of the clubroom preparing her form of attack. With this I will destroy the bond between you and Omote-san. Prepare yourself Tsukune for my magical item War-kun. Yukari said as she pulled out a strange-looking straw doll. She grabbed the doll's arm with a smile and moved it so it punched itself in the face. Back in the room as Tsukune and Kurumu were talking Tsukune's arm suddenly moved and punched himself in the face. Ahhh. He screamed in pain as his nose began to bleed. Tsukune-kun. Why did you do that? Kurumu shouted both confused and worried. I don't know. My arm just moved on its own. Tsukune said as he clutched his nose. Outside Yukari was giggling as she moved the straw doll around which resulted in Tsukune copying its movements. It was because of this that caused Tsukune to suddenly grab and squeeze Kurumu's wrists. It was at that moment that the others walked into the room. Sorry guys, but we couldn't find sensei. Omote said before she froze at the sight in front of her. We would have been here sooner, but we had to make an intervention because of Ura-chan. Naruto added before looking at the rest of the room occupants and like Omote, he was shocked at what he saw. It is not my fault that the fool had the nerve to invade my personal space. He's lucky that I only broke his arm. If you were not there then I would have ended his sorry life. Ura scoffed before raising an eyebrow at the scene in front of them. Right in front of them stood Tsukune who was groping Kurumu's chest. Said succubus's face was so red it was almost glowing. The other three just stared at them as the room was filled with silence. Finally Naruto broke it by speaking. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you two. He said as he nudged the vampires out of the room and closed the door behind them. It's not what it looks like. Tsukune shouted in frustration. Today was not his day. When the others walked back into the room Tsukune explained what actually happened. The others were skeptical, but then they heard someone giggling. Turning towards the window they saw the top of a witch's hat. Connecting the dots Tsukune ran to the window reached out and grabbed the young girl by the back of her cloak. He pulled her inside and glared at her. I knew she was behind it. He said as he pointed at the girl. Yukari was about to say something, but stopped when she saw the disappointed look in Naruto's eyes. Yukari-chan, you and I have talked about playing pranks. Don't you remember what I told you? He asked as he shook his head. Yes. Yukari said as she felt like a child being scolded by their parent. Seeing this Tsukune smirked, thinking that the little girl would get what's coming to her. I have told you time and time again that if you are playing a prank on someone then make sure you don't get caught otherwise it ruins the mystery of trying to figure out who's behind it. He continued causing the human to face fault. That's what's bothering you? He shouted in disbelief. Remember to hide your presence better next time Yukari-chan. Naruto said ignoring Tsukune's outburst. Don't encourage her Tsukune shouted but was once again ignored. On the sidelines the three girls' sweat dropped at their antics. Yukari just laughed at him before she ran behind Omote's leg and then she pulled her eyelid and stuck her tongue at the boy, causing the boy's eye to twitch. Now Tsukune maybe you should calm down. Omote suggested trying to keep things calm. It was just a prank. No one got hurt. Naruto added. Plus I bet Kurumu-chan enjoyed it. He thought as he glanced at the succubus who still had a small blush. Tsukune didn't hear a word from them though since he was too caught up in his annoyance. What's with you guys? You're being too soft on her. If you don't tell her when she's doing more harm than good, it's only going to hurt her in the long run. Tsukune reasoned. The room was quiet but Omote finally answered. I guess so but she said a bit hesitantly. I'm doing more harm than good. Am I just another bother to Omote-san? To Naruto. Yukari thought worriedly. Naruto noticed her nervous expression, but Tsukune kept going. If she spends all her time being your bodyguard she'll lose her friends and wind up alone. He added not knowing about Yukari's status around the school. Yukari flinched a little before she schooled her features. I don't really mind. I'm a genius after all, besides why would I want such low ability friends like you anyway? She said. What did you say? The aggravated human asked. Besides I'm used to it. She said softly. What? Tsukune asked confused. Being alone. I've always been alone so I'm used to it. She explained. Naruto looked at her sympathetically knowing the feeling. Yukari Tsukune said feeling a little regret from what he said. He was about to apologize when Yukari waved her wand around and a basin appeared out of thin air and landed on Tsukune's head. Like I'd let you get me that easily. She taunted before running out of the room. That's it. He cried. He was about to give chase, but Omote blocked his path. What are you doing? She shouted a little angry that her friend could be so mean to a child. Why are you at me? Tsukune asked a bit surprised. Didn't she see the tricks that Yukari pulled on him? I know that her pranks were a little much but still. You're older, you should be more mature about this. Omote said. I would, but she's taking it a bit too far to just ignore. I think we should just forget about her. Tsukune suggested, causing Omote to frown. At Tsukune she started, but the boy didn't listen as he rubbed his head. The basin that fell was really heavy. She's been making me suffer a lot, why are you taking her side? He asked, a bit annoyed that his friend didn't seem to care. It's not that, but why can't you understand? Can't you look at it from Yukari-chan's point of view and try to understand her feelings? She asked before running out the door. Omote-san. He called out, but either she didn't hear him or she ignored him because she kept going. I guess I can understand what she's saying. I mean, it must be pretty hard for her here since she's a witch and all. Kurumu commented. What does her being a witch have to do with anything? Tsukune asked. It has a lot to do with it actually, seeing as how she is a part of a hated race. Ura answered, her arms crossed as she looked towards the direction where Omote ran. Hated race? He repeated. Witches are considered as half-breeds. They're in the boundary between humans and yokai. They are a bit of both, humans fear them, while yokai see them as a disgrace. Kurumu explained. When Naruto and I first met her, she didn't have a single friend. Apparently Naruto was the first person to ever offer their friendship to her. Ura added. Tsukune silently listened as he began to feel guilt for the words he said and how he said it. Damn it, I didn't know. I have to find her and apologize. He said as he clenched his fist in frustration. How could he act like that without knowing the facts? Then let's go. Kurumu said before looking around. Hey, where'd Naruto go? I don't know. Tsukune said as he looked around, their blonde-haired friend nowhere to be seen. He left shortly after Omote did. Ura answered. She was the only one to notice the blonde slip out of the window and she knew he would go after Yukari and Omote, which is why she stayed here. While she wouldn't admit it out loud, she knew she could trust Naruto to keep Omote safe. Well, we better go find them. Tsukune said as he ran out the door, Kurumu following right behind them. Ura also followed, but at a more relaxed pace. With Yukari. The little witch was running through the school grounds, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but she refused to let them fall. She should have known this would happen. She was a witch, and witches don't make friends with other yokai. Pretty soon she found herself in the middle of a forest until she bumped into someone, causing her to fall on the ground. She looked up to see who she ran into, and her eyes widened in fear when she saw who was standing in front of her. Don't you know that it's rude to run into someone without apologizing, Yukari-san? The class representative said with a dark grin on his face. What are you doing here? She asked nervously. She took a step back but found herself surrounded by the class representative's friends. What's wrong? You're not leaving already, are you? It's been a while since we hung out. He said as he stalked over to the girl, licking his lips with a lizard-like tongue. You've been a thorn in my side for some time and now you don't have your bodyguards to protect you. Looks like I finally get to teach you a lesson. He said, looking down at her before he grabbed the collar of her shirt. Hi. She screamed as she was thrown into a nearby tree. So disgusting. We have no need for a witch in our class. He spat as his skin became covered in scales. The entire group soon transformed until their whole body was covered in scales and their faces resembled the heads of lizards. I think it's about time I get rid of you. The class representative hissed, his slitted eyes staring down at the scared witch. I won't go down that easily. She said as she pulled out her wand. She was about to cast a spell, but the lizard man lunged forward and bit the wand, trapping it in his sharp teeth. He spit it out, looked at her with a smug expression. Now that you can't do anything, what should we do? He asked. I know. We should eat her. We're so far away from the school that no one will ever know. One of the others said. The class representative thought about it and grinned. You know what? That sounds like an excellent idea. No, without my wand I can't use my magic. A panicked Yukari thought. Looks like this is the end for you. The class representative shouted as he opened his mouth, revealing his sharp teeth before charging at the girl. Stop it. A voice shouted. They turned to see a worried Omote running towards them. Don't hurt Yukari-chan. She said as she stood in front of the girl protectively. Damn it. You caught us at a really bad time, Omote-san. He said with narrowed eyes. Not wanting her to get hurt, Yukari tried to get her to leave. Just run, Omote-san. If you stay here you'll just get eaten. Just forget about me and run away. She shouted, hoping she would listen. It's okay. I'm willing to fight for you. Don't act so tough, it's alright if you ask for help when things get too tough for you. Omote said with a gentle smile. What? She asked, shocked. Be honest when you say you love me. The truth is you want someone to be kind to you, someone to be your friend. Your pranks are just a way for you to get the attention you want. She continued. This is no time for you to be saying things like that. Just get out of here. Yukari shouted. I understand that it was difficult being alone for so long. I've always felt alone too, but no matter what I always had my sister by my side and it made the pain easier to bear. So let me stand by your side and be your friend too." She finished with a smile. "Why the hell are you talking like we're not here?" the class representative shouted. He was about to charge at Omote, but Yukari bit the arm of the hand that was holding her, drawing his attention. "What are you doing?" he asked in annoyance as he raised his arm to strike her down, but at the last minute Tsukune came from nowhere and pulled her away. "Tsukune!" Omote shouted when she saw the clawed hand of the lizard man graze his shoulder. "Tsukune! Why did you do that? Why are you here?" Yukari asked, confused that the boy she tormented would help her. "I'm sorry, Yukari. If I had understood you a little better I would have said such insensitive things to you. Please let me help you too, that way you won't be alone anymore," he said, shocking the little girl. At that moment Kurumu and Ura arrived at the scene. Kurumu was looking at Tsukune worriedly, but Ura was looking around the field they were at. "Strange, Naruto left before all of us, so where is he?" Ura thought as she tried to find him. "I don't know why you guys keep trying to interfere with us, but I had enough," the class reprehensive said as he glared at the human and witch. "Don't take us lightly, you fools," one of his friends shouted as he charged at the two of them. Before he could touch them though, a flying body tackled him hard, sending him crashing into a tree with enough force to knock him out. "What the hell?" the other said before another body crashed into him, and like with the first one he hit a tree with enough force to knock him out. "What's happening?" the representative asked before a third body was thrown in front of his feet, revealing a beaten lizard man. "The boss cough, we tried to stop him cough, but he was too strong," he said before his eyes rolled to the back of his head. "Sorry I'm late, but I got lost on the road of life," a voice said from the distance. They looked and saw Naruto walking towards them at a casual pace, but with a cold look he stared at the only lizard man left standing. "What the I sent those three to stop you. How did you beat all three of them?" he asked, surprised. "If you think they would be able to stand them because they outnumber me, then you're even more pathetic than I thought," Naruto said as he stood by the group, his eyes never leaving the class representatives. "Naruto, you're here," Yukari said with a smile, glad to see her first friend. Naruto glanced at her and noticed her uniform was a bit ruffled and had other signs showing she was pushed around. He narrowed his eyes as his pupils turned into slits. "I thought I warned you. I said that if you mess with her again then I will kill you," he hissed, glaring at the lizard man in front of him, who took a step back. "You know what? I've had just about enough of you," he shouted as he charged at the blonde. "The feeling's mutual. Rasengan," he shouted as he ran towards his opponent, a ball of spiraling blue light in hand. He avoided the claw aimed at his head as he rammed the Rasengan into his chest, sending the lizard man flying through the air, crashing through multiple trees until he finally hit the ground with his eyes rolled to the back of his head. "You okay, Yukari-chan?" Naruto asked as he approached the girl. "After everything I've done to you, why did you help me?" Yukari asked, looking at Tsukune. "Because I'd like to be friends and I always help my friends. What do you say?" Tsukune asked with a smile. Hearing this caused the dam to break. She ran into Tsukune's arms and cried. She made other friends. People who accepted her. Naruto watched with a grin as the younger girl hugged the poor human to death. "Didn't I tell you everything would be alright? Now you made some more friends," the blonde said, causing the girl to smile. "You were right, Naruto. Thank you too for everything. I promise I'll find a way to repay you," she said through tears as she looked at her first friend. The group began to make their way back to school and Yukari glanced around. She looked at Omote and Tsukune, who were walking in front of her, and had a light blush. Omote, who was considered a goddess amongst the students, stood up for her and wanted to befriend her. Tsukune, someone who she tormented, helped her when he could have just left her alone after all the things she did and said to him. Two people who she never thought would talk to her were now her friends. She looked behind her at the one responsible for all this. Naruto, who saw past the fact she was a witch and became her friend. Her very first friend. She watched as he walked beside Ura. He said something that made her blush, causing him to laugh. Not liking this, she stomped on his foot, smirking when he cried in pain. Yukari watched with interest. It seemed that those two were pretty close. A mischievous gleam appeared in her eyes as she smiled. She just thought of a way to repay Naruto for all that he has done for her. Next day. "It looks like Yukari-chan has really changed for the better," Omote said as she carried a box of supplies. "Yeah, I heard she apologized to everyone that she pranked too," Kurumu added. "Looks like things are finally looking up for her," Naruto said, Ura nodding in agreement. "I think she also got over that obsession with you, Omote-chan," Kurumu said. "Looks like she's growing up," Omote mused as they opened the door to the club room. "I love you, Tsukune-kun," Yukari said as she hugged the confused boy by the waist, causing the others who just entered to face fault. "What are you doing, Yukari-chan?" Omote asked. "Hey guys. I just joined the newspaper club. Please treat me well," she informed them with a smile. "You joined?" Naruto asked with a smile. Yup. I decided to be closer to my friends. That way I can be with Tsukune-kun and Omote-chan. She said with a dreamy expression before walking towards them. I love you both, will you please go out with me? She asked. EHH. Everyone shouted. I still love Omote-chan, but it seems that I have fallen for Tsukune-kun too. She said with a blush causing the others to sweat drop. Well, if that's what your heart is telling you, then go for it, Yukari-chan. Naruto cheered with a grin. Don't encourage her. Tsukune shouted in exasperation, but her was ignored. Thanks a lot, Naruto Nai-san. She said with a bright smile. Nai-san. Naruto repeated with a raised eyebrow. Yup. You're kinda like the big brother I always wanted. You don't mind, do you? Not at all. He said, grinning, causing her to beam. But because I also figured out how I'm going to repay you. She exclaimed. And how are you going to do that? Kurama asked curiously. By getting him a girlfriend. She declared, pumping her fist into the air. The room was silent again until her words registered. What? Naruto asked, shocked. I have decided that the only way to repay you was to help you find love. So I'm going to help you get a girlfriend. In fact, I already have the perfect girl in mind. She said with a mischievous smile. I feel sorry for whoever you have in mind. Ura said. I wouldn't say that since I'm pairing him up with you, Ura-san. Yukari said, causing the room to fall silent again. What? Naruto and Ura shouted, both sporting small blushes on their faces. I have decided that the only girl worthy enough for my Nai-san is Ura-san. Why on earth would I want to pursue a relationship with an idiot like him? A blushing Ura said as she pointed at Naruto, who looked a bit offended. And what the hell is that supposed to mean? He asked with a twitching eyebrow. If you did not understand that simple sentence, then it only further proves my point. Oh yeah, well, who would want to be in a relationship with a scary-ass girl like you? He shot back. It was now her turn to have a twitch in her eye. I am not scary. Tell that to the children whose souls you've eaten. Want to say that again, you blonde-haired buffoon? Why? Couldn't hear me over the screams of fear from your victims. On the sidelines, Kurumu's sweat dropped as she watched Naruto and Ura argue, while Yukari chased Omote and Tsukune while declaring her love. Shaking her head at them, she sighed. At least it isn't boring with them. Tsukune was currently sitting in the club room thinking about his time at the academy. Glancing at his side, he smiled when he saw Omote, who was reading a book of some kind. My birthday is coming soon. If I could spend it with Omote-san, that would be amazing. He thought with a blush as images of him and Omote alone entered his mind. He was brought back to reality when he felt something hit his head. Quit daydreaming, we have things to do here. Jin said, rolling his eyes. But you have to hit me, Jin-senpai. Tsukune asked as he rubbed his head, but the club president ignored him. Instead, he looked at Omote and raised an eyebrow. An art book? Are you working on a painting or something, Omote-san? Jin asked, startling the vampire. No. It's nothing really, she said with a small blush as she tried to hide the book she was reading. You're looking as beautiful as always, Omote-san. So how about we go on a date sometime, my love? Jin asked with a charming smile. How is he able to confess his love so easily? Tsukune thought to himself, but sweat dropped when he saw Jin chase Omote around the room asking for a date. Yahoo! Another day with my destined one. You have no idea how much I love you, Tsukune-kun. Kurama shouted as she appeared out of nowhere before suffocating the poor boy with her fists as she hugged the life out of him. Kurama-chan. He shouted as he felt himself getting tackled. Stay away from them. Yukari shouted as she ran into the room swinging her wand. Suddenly a dustpan and a desk appeared over the heads of Kurama and Jin before falling on them, causing them to crash onto the floor. Anyone who comes between Tsukune-kun and Omote-chan will have to deal with my magic. The young witch declared. I won't let you get in the way of our love. She finished. Who the hell is she? Jin asked as he stood up on shaky legs. That's Yukari-chan, our new club member. Omote explained with a sweat drop. How can they express their love so easily, but I can't, Tsukune thought as he cried in tears, but then he clutched his fist in determination. I refuse to give up. I will find a way to confess my feelings. I'll do it on my birthday. Just then the club door was kicked open. They looked up and were surprised to see an annoyed Naruto and Ura. But what shocked them even more was that the two of them were handcuffed together. They ignored the curious looks from the others and settled their gaze on Yukari, who tried to hide behind Omote. Don't even bother hiding, Yukari-chan, we see you. Naruto said as he and Ura walked towards her. You will release us from this now or so help me, Ura growled out. Ura-chan, what happened? Omote asked. It would seem that our resident child genius decided to play a prank. Unfortunately, she chose the wrong target. Ura said as she glared at the little witch, cried in protest. This was not some simple prank. She shouted. Then what exactly is this? Naruto asked as he raised his handcuffed hand, lifting Ura's in the process. It was part of my plan to help you two realize your love for each other. she said, causing the room to fall silent. What? Jin shouted in horror. How could she even think Ura would love Naruto when it was so obvious the silver-haired vampire had feelings for him? At least it was obvious to him. Why don't you tell us what happened? Tsukune suggested. Kurumu by his side nodded in agreement. Naruto sighed but complied as he began to explain what happened earlier. Flashback. Earlier today. Naruto and Ura were walking to the club room. Their uniforms were a bit wrinkled and they had a few bruises. They agreed to have a spar at least once a week to make sure their skills to not get rusty. Just when I think I have you cornered you find a way to surprise me. Ura said as she pulled a stray lock of hair behind her ear. What can I say, back at my village I had a reputation of being quite the unpredictable warrior. But I have to say your kicks are insane. Naruto said as he massaged his jaw. Naruto nai. Ura-san. A voice called out. They turned around and saw Yukari running towards them. Hey Yukari-chan, how's it going? Naruto asked as she reached them. I'm good, but what happened to you guys? She asked. Nothing really, we just had a light spar. Ura answered, although their light spars were far more challenging than most of the fights they've been in since the school year started. I see, do you do this often? She asked curiously. No one noticed as she reached into her backpack. We try to do it at least once a week so we can stay in shape. Naruto said. Just as they were about to turn a corner Naruto felt something latch around his wrist. He looked down and saw that his hand was caught in a handcuff. Quicker than they could react Yukari grabbed the other end of the handcuffs and latched it to Ura's wrist. Blinking in confusion she pulled her arm and Naruto's followed it. What did you do? She asked in annoyance when she realized what happened. Helping. Was her simple answer as she opened the door to a supply closet. She quickly pushed Naruto in the closet, the handcuffs forcing Ura to follow him. As she crashed into the blonde's body Yukari closed the door and locked it, never once losing her smile. Now then, while I go to the club room I want you two to stay here and realize your burning love for each other. Yukari said through the door. If you think this little trinket will keep me trapped you are very foolish Yukari. Ura said as she tried to snap the handcuffs off, but to her surprise, she found that she couldn't. I'm not called a child genius for nothing. I knew you could break ordinary handcuffs so I got an enchanted pair. It acts like a limiter sealing your yaki and strength until it matches an ordinary human. Have fun you two. Yukari giggled before running towards the room. Inside the closet Ura was busy trying to break the handcuffs, but to no avail. It seemed like it really did block out her strength. She glared at it before looking at Naruto who had a bored look on his face as he looked around the closet they were in. What are you just standing there? Do something about this blasted thing. She said as gestured towards the handcuffs. Naruto raised an eyebrow before shrugging. He reached into his blazer and pulled out a kunai causing Ura to raise an eyebrow this time. She would have to ask why he always carried those with him. She watched as he tried to cut the chain with the knife, but it didn't even leave a scratch. He continued this for a while but didn't make any progress. This thing is pretty tough. He commented before stashing his kunai away. When I get out of here she will pay. Ura growled as she tried to kick the door down, but to her surprise nothing happened. Wow, these things really work. Naruto observed as looked at the handcuffs. He had his doubts about their ability to seal their yaki. Well, I am glad to see you so impressed with this contraption. I would appreciate it if you could help find a way to get out of here. She growled. She was facing away from him so he wouldn't see the blush on her face. She tried to force it down, but couldn't due to the close proximity between the two of them. Handcuffed to a beautiful girl in a cramped place like this. I hope Hiro-Senin never finds out about this, or else I'll definitely end up in his next book. Naruto thought to himself. How about we just listen to Yukari-chan and lose ourselves to our burning passion for each other? He offered. Hearing this caused Ura's blush to increase tenfold. I'm being serious here you fool. She shouted as she punched him in the stomach. He grunted in pain as he rubbed his stomach before looking at the door. Alright, let's see what we can do. He said as he pulled out his kunai again and spun it around his finger thinking of a way to escape this. End of flashback. Then I just used my kunai to take down the door hinges. He explained. So if you would please get this thing off of us it would be really appreciated. Ura said as she tried to keep her temper in check. Yukari looked at them and sighed. It looked like her plan failed. Oh well, this was only the beginning. She had more ideas up her sleeve. Reaching into her pocket she pulled out a key and unlocked the handcuffs. To think that Ura-san had to endure being stuck with you. Don't worry, spending some time with me should make her feel better. Jin said. Before Yukari could even put the handcuffs away, Jin snatched them out of her hand and hooked one of the ends around his wrist. He grabbed Ura's arm and tried to place the other end around her wrist, but she was not having any of that. Thanks to her advanced reflexes, the vampire was able to shift her body until she was standing behind him. She grabbed his other arm and trapped it, so his arms were trapped behind his back. You would dare try to invade my space in such a manner? She asked ominously. Now Ura-san, calm down. Jin said nervously, but Ura did not hear him. I thought I told you last time, you lowly dog, to know your place. She shouted as she kicked Jin in the face, sending him flying through the window. What a shame. Looks like Omote will never learn. Naruto said before a feeling of dread washed over him. He looked around and saw that Ura was walking towards him, a dark aura spread around her. Do not think that I have forgotten about that suggestion from earlier. She growled as Naruto began to sweat nervously. Relax, Ura-chan, I was just trying to lighten the mood with some humor. He said as he inched towards the door. You call that humor? When I'm done with you, you will know better than to say such things to me. She yelled as she charged at the blonde. Naruto, not wanting to be on the receiving end of her rage, ran out of the room, but his peace was short-lived when he noticed Ura chasing after him. Head back over here, Naruto. They heard her shout. I'm sorry. Please don't kill me. Came the frightened yell of Naruto, hoping to escape the vampire's wrath. Back in the clubroom, the other could only sweat drop at their friend's antics. Never a dull moment with those two around. I really hope your sister doesn't kill him, Omote-chan. Kurumu said. Although she won't admit it, she really cares about Naruto. I'm sure she won't kill him, I think. She said a bit hesitantly in the end. I think your plan may have backfired, Yukari-chan. Tsukune said as he looked at Yukari. Have no fear, Tsukune-kun. This was only the first step. I have faith that those two will get together. The young witch said with conviction. Okami not there. Anywhere but there. They had Naruto's frantic shout from wherever he was. And again, Rome wasn't built in a day. Yukari said sheepishly. As it turned out, Naruto never returned to the clubroom. When Ura returned alone, she simply said that Naruto was thinking about what he did and why he should never anger her again. Not wanting to get on her bad side, they let the subject drop while saying a silent prayer, hoping their blonde friend was alright. Eventually it was time for them to leave and head for their dorm rooms. I'll see you late, Tsukune. Omote said as she waved her friend goodbye. We're not going back together? He asked, confused. Usually he would always walk her to her room before heading to his own. Sorry, but I have other plans. She apologized as she held a book closer to her chest, which Tsukune noticed. Isn't that the art book from earlier? He asked curiously. Yeah, you see, the art teacher asked me to model for a project and I agreed. So I'll be busy for a week, she explained. Hearing this caused Tsukune to fall on his knees as he banged the ground with his fist, and tears falling down his face. A week? Does that mean she'll miss my birthday? There goes my plan for confessing to her. He cried in despair as Omote watched him worriedly. She blinked a few times before a thought came to her and she smiled. Don't worry, I'll still perform my duties for the newspaper club. She reassured him, but it didn't do a thing to calm him down. That's not what I'm worried about. Could it be that she forgot about my birthday? I could have sworn I told her about it. Tsukune thought to himself as he began to sulk. I guess I understand. It's only reasonable that I support you when you find something that interests you. He said, making Omote to smile brilliantly. But that the two of them went their separate ways, not noticing a bruised and whimpering Naruto leaning against a tree. Newspaper club next day. I'm just saying, yesterday you overreacted. Naruto said from his seat. And I'm saying to watch your tongue around me. You should have known how I would react to such a statement. Ura defended with her arms crossed. From the side the others looked back and forth as the two of them argued. I wonder what happened yesterday. Ura never told us. Kurumu said. I asked Naruto this morning. He just stared at me then started to shiver uncontrollably. Tsukune supplied. Bad huh? Ura-san can be really scary when she wants to. Kurumu commented. She has a very strong personality. Omote said, trying to come up with the right word. It's why she has a hard time making friends. Which makes my mission that more important. Not only is Ura-san the only one worthy for Naruto Nai, but he's the only one strong enough to handle her. Yukari said, but a loud thud caught their attention. I thought you had learned your lesson. A blushing Ura huffed as she looked away from Naruto, whose head was lying on the desk with a large lump forming. Looks like he said something when he should have kept his mouth shut again. Kurumu observed as they released a collective sigh. Alright, enough horsing around. Jin exclaimed as he slammed his hand against the chalkboard, bringing everyone's attention to him. What's wrong, Omote? Naruto asked, causing the werewolf to twitch at the nickname. There's a new problem around school. Apparently girls have gone missing. Missing? Omote repeated as everyone listened carefully. Yes. You see, female students have been disappearing one after another without a trace. In 1 month 7 girls have already vanished. Jin explained with an uncharacteristically serious look. He looked around to see the others looking at him with rapt attention. He paused though when he saw Naruto and Ura looking at him with a suspicious look. What? He asked, his serious look replaced with a confused frown. You said the targets were girls and we know how much you love girls. Naruto started thoughtfully. Considering what we know of your abilities and the fact that you are a pervert, it wouldn't really surprise me if you were somehow connected to this. Ura finished. The others blinked as they thought over their words before looking at Jin, thoughtfully causing the werewolf to face fault. It wasn't me. He shouted. I don't know, you could just be trying to throw us off the wrong track. And being a member of the newspaper club could be the perfect cover. Naruto said as he continued to stare him down. Damn it. It wasn't me, you stupid underclassman. Jin yelled as he pulled his hair in frustration. Honestly, what did he ever do to them to earn their distrust? Oh yeah, he tried to frame the boys in this room in hopes of making the vampires his. Alright, we believe you. Naruto said, but it was clear in his voice that he was still wary. As you can see, I have some basic information on the missing girls. He stared, but Naruto interrupted him. So you already have information on them before the investigation even started? He observed. A little suspicious if you ask me. Ura commented as Jin began to bang his head against the board. Trying to calm himself, he looked back at the room. If we're done joking around, I'd like to continue. He said. Wow, despite his playboy attitude, he can be pretty serious when it counts. Tsukune thought, impressed. As you can tell from the pictures, the missing girls are very hot. If someone is holding them hostage, I have to find a way to save them. If they see my heroic actions, then they'll be so thankful that they might fall in love with me. Jin finished as he clutched his fist in determination. That's his motivation, Tsukune thought in disbelief. First Kakashi and his Icha books, then Nero-sen and a self-proclaimed super pervert, and now this guy. Why do I always attract these weirdos? Naruto thought dejectedly. Eventually the meeting was over and the others left to do their own activities. Naruto was walking around casually when he noticed Tsukune walking on unsteady legs. What's up, Tsukune? He said, getting the human's attention. Oh hey Naruto. He greeted as he rubbed his neck. Omote-chan was probably here but left after getting a little snack. Naruto reasoned after seeing a light-headed Tsukune make his way towards him. What's with you? You look like someone kicked a puppy or something. Naruto said, noticing his disheartened mood. Nothing, just some depressing thoughts. Tsukune said. Care to share? It might make you feel better. He suggested. Tsukune seemed a bit hesitant but decided to speak. It's just Omote-san, I don't know what I am to her. Sometimes it feels like she just hangs around me so that she can suck my blood. He explained, only to receive a bop on the head courtesy of Naruto. What was that for? He asked as he massaged his head. For being stupid. I don't know what brought those thoughts, but get them out of your head. Omote-chan adores you, Tsukune. You are much more than just a blood bank to her. Naruto said with a smile. Tsukune looked at him before allowing a smile to spread on his face as well. You're right, I guess I was just a little sad. I'm not sure, but I think Omote-san might have forgotten about my birthday and I really wanted to spend it with her. He explained. So that's what happened. I guess I can understand that. I used to feel the same way. Naruto said, gaining Tsukune's attention. Despite being good friends with Naruto, they still didn't know much about his past. Really? He asked, interested. Yeah, you see, I'm an orphan. It's been that way since birth. Whenever my birthday came around, instead of being all happy and stuff, I was depressed because I had no one to spend the day with. He said, deciding not to tell him that people used to form mobs and attack him in hopes of ending the reign of the demon brat. Oh. Was the only thing Tsukune could think to say. Compared to that, his problems seemed a bit small. So just relax. I'm sure everything will turn out alright in the end. Naruto finished with a smile. Yeah, thanks for the talk. I really needed it. Tsukune said, feeling much better. Next day. Tsukune was walking down the hallway with a determined look in his eyes. He looked around until his eyes landed on Omote and he walked over to her. Omote-san. He said, gaining her attention. Just ask her to spend your birthday with you. He told himself. Do you need something, Tsukune? The pink-haired girl asked. Well, you see, it's a little noisy here. Let's go somewhere more quiet. He said nervously as he grabbed her wrist and led her away. Unfortunately, he took a few steps and bumped into someone. Looking down, he saw that he ran into Kurumu, whose face lit up when seeing him. Tsukune-kun. To think we would run into each other. It must be fate trying to bring us together. The succubus squealed as he grabbed him into a suffocating hug, burying his face into her bosom. Seeing this caused a tick mark to grow on Omote's head before she walked away. Sorry, Tsukune, but I have to go somewhere. She said, not looking back. Wait a second. He cried, trying to follow her, but it was impossible as Kurumu refused to let go. No matter what he tried, someone always got in the way and Tsukune was unable to speak to Omote. Finally, it was the day before his birthday and he was crying in despair. Damn it. Every time I try to talk to her, something gets in the way. He cried as he pulled his hair. Naruto stood by his side, rolling his eyes at his overdramatic friend. Ura was standing by his side looking at Tsukune with a blank face. Naruto explained to her about the human's troubles, and while she somewhat understood, she thought he was taking it too seriously. They watched Tsukune as he continued to cry desperately until they couldn't take it anymore. Enough was enough, and Ura decided to speak her mind. "Enough of your pathetic whining. If you wish to speak to my sister, then get up and do it," she said in annoyance. "What's the point? Something's bound to get in my way," Tsukune said, defeated. Naruto and Ura looked at each other and nodded. Naruto grabbed the back of Tsukune's shirt and began to drag him around with Ura by his side. What are you doing?" he asked, trying to get up, but he couldn't escape Naruto's grip. Sighing in defeat, he just let himself get dragged to wherever those two were taking him. They finally arrived at the art room and he threw the boy inside. "Now quit your complaining and just talk to her," Naruto ordered. "You worry too much. I may not understand but my sister considers you to be a very important person. I'm sure nothing would please her more than spending your birthday with you," Ura said before she and Naruto left in order to provide Tsukune with some privacy. "Those two can be awfully pushy at times, but they have a point. I should just ask her," Tsukune said to himself. He looked around to see he was alone in the room. "I'll just wait until she shows up," he said to himself. He looked around but heard a strange noise. He closed his eyes trying to figure out what the sound was. "Is someone crying?" he asked himself when he figured out the sound. He looked around trying to focus on the sound. He searched the room and noticed a locker. "The locker? Is someone in there?" he asked as he opened the locker, expecting to see someone in there, but was surprised. Instead of seeing a person, he saw a statue of a girl, and the statue had tears running down its cheeks. "What in the world?" he asked himself as he studied the chapter. "What are you doing here?" a voice from behind asked dangerously. Tsukune turned around and saw the art teacher Ishigami staring at him with a dark look. "Ishigami-sensei. I'm sorry about just barging in here, I just needed to speak with Omote-san," a panicked Tsukune said. Ishigami looked at the boy and her face cleared as she gave him a gentle smile. "Sorry about that, Tsukune-kun. I wasn't expecting someone here, so I was a bit surprised," she explained as she closed the locker door. "You said you're here for Omote-san, right? Well, I'm sorry to say this, but she can't talk to you right now," she explained. "Why not?" he asked with a frown. He was about to say something else, but Omote just entered the room. "Tsukune, what are you doing here?" she asked. "Omote-san, I just wanted," he started, but the pink-haired girl pushed him out of the room. "You have to leave," she said in a bit of a rush. "What?" he asked, hiding the hurt he felt. Here was someone he cared deeply for and she was pushing him away before he could even speak. "Wait a minute. I just wanted," he tried, but she kept pushing. "Just go, Tsukune. This is really important, I don't have any time to waste," she said, and Tsukune felt his heart break. "Spending time with me is a waste of time?" "Okay, I'm sorry for bothering you," he said in a monotone voice as he left the room. "I guess I was wrong, I'm only a blood bank to you," he whispered, but Omote heard and flinched. She tried to say something, but Tsukune was already gone. She was about to chase after him, but something grabbed her arm. "I'm sorry, but I can't let you leave yet," Ishigami said. "Newspaper clubroom? How strange," Yukari said as she looked into a crystal ball. "What are you doing, Yukari-chan?" Kurumu asked, bringing the attention to her. "Divination, but something's wrong," she said. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "According to this, there's a bad aura surrounding Tsukune-kun and Omote-chan," Yukari explained with a frown. "What do you mean?" Ura asked with a raised brow. Before she could explain, the door opened and a dejected Tsukune entered. "Hey guys," he greeted. "You're late, there's another girl missing," Jin said, gaining his attention. He looked at the picture Jin held up and his eyes widened. "What the?" he said as he grabbed the picture. "Is something wrong, Tsukune-kun?" Kurumu asked, concerned. "This girl, I've seen her before," he said. "Really? What do you know of her? It might help the investigation," Jin asked. "Not much, but I just saw a statue that looks just like her," he said as he bit his thumb. "This girl, I saw her visit Ishigami-sensei earlier today and now she's missing. Could it be a coincidence? But if it isn't, Omote-san could be in real danger." Without saying another word, he ran out of the room. He had a sinking feeling in his stomach, he had to make sure Omote was alright. "What's his problem?" Jin asked, confused, but no one. "Art room? What happening, sensei? Why does your hair look like snakes?" Omote asked as she backed away from the art teacher. "I'm afraid that Tsukune-kun discovered something he shouldn't have. So to make sure nothing happens, I'll have to end our fun a little early and take care of him," she said with a gentle smile before he disappeared, and she glared at the vampire. Her snake-like hair charged at Omote and one of them grabbed her wrist. "Hiya," she screamed as she was flung across the room, crashing through a closet door. "Ow," she moaned before she heard crying. Blinking in confusion, she looked around and saw a couple of statues. Why are these statues crying? She asked herself as she inspected them before she felt something off. She looked at her arm and widened her eyes. The wrist that was bitten by the snake was turning into stone. What's happening? She asked, fear could be heard in her voice. You have fallen victim to my powers. Any living thing that is bitten by my snake-like hair will turn into stone. Soon you will join my collection alongside the other girls. Ishigami said as she stalked over to her. You mean that you turned students into statues? Omote asked as she backed away. I guess you can say I'm a bit of a collector. When I see something beautiful I just have to preserve it for all eternity. This is true art. She explained as she waved her arm in a sweeping gesture. Somewhere in the elemental nations. Two figures wearing black cloaks with red clouds were walking. One of them had long blonde hair, while the other had a hunched figure. Suddenly the blonde one stopped. What's wrong? The hunched one asked as he stopped to look at his partner. I don't know why but I feel that someone has insulted Artem. He explained with a frown. And what is that supposed to mean? That some fool is spouting nonsense. Probably saying something like art is supposed to be everlasting for all eternity or something like that. Just the thought makes my skin crawl. The blonde said disgusted. You're a fool. The hunched one sighed before continuing on his way. Art is something that lasts within a moment. In other words, art is an explosion. He said in frustration. If he ever found out who gave him this feeling they would pay. Yakai Academy. Now Omote-san please join the rest of them. Ishigami said before sending her snakes after her. The snakes quickly wrapped themselves around her arms and legs, leaving her defenseless. I still can't get over how stunning you look. You should be thanking me because I will make sure it is captured forever. She said as the snake's hold tightened. The missing students, you were responsible, weren't you? Omote stated. Isn't it amazing? I was able to capture their sadness, their despair art with real emotions. But don't worry, soon you will join them. She said. No. She screamed as she closed her eyes in fear. Don't hurt her. A voice said, causing her to open her eyes. She widened her eyes when she saw Tsukune hit Ishigami in the head with a broom. Tsukune. What are you doing here? Omote asked surprised, but it looked like he didn't hear her. I don't know who you think you are but I won't let you hurt her. He said through gritted teeth as he tried to pull the snakes off Omote. Such a nuisance. Ishigami hissed. Tsukune, get away before you're turned into stone. Omote pleaded, but he wasn't about to leave her alone. I won't leave you alone, Omote-san. No matter what, I won't leave my friend. He declared. You stupid little boy, I will not let you get in the way of my art. Ishigami said with narrowed eyes as she sent a few snakes after him. Tsukune. Omote cried, scared for the safety of her friend. Tsukune expected pain, but it never came. He looked around and saw the snakes that were lunging at him and the ones that were wrapped around Omote severed in half while a few shuriken were embedded in the wall. I'd appreciate it if you'd stay away from my friends. Naruto said as he leaned against the door. Naruto. Omote and Tsukune said in relief. Tsukune was acting a little weird so we decided to investigate. He explained. You have a lot of nerve endangering my sister in such a way. Ura said coldly as she appeared by Naruto. Tsukune smiled in relief but noticed her Rosario was already off. Naruto must have done it before they arrived. Ura-chan, you're here too. Omote said with a smile. With those two here there was no way Ishigami would get away with her plans. Of course I came. There was no way I was going to leave you. Ura said with a small smile. Ura Akashi, another beautiful specimen. I had plans to go after you too, but since you were kind enough to come to me, the art teacher said her snakes going after Ura. If you think I would fall prey to such pathetic tactics, she said as she dodged the snakes gracefully. Before they could even blink she vanished and reappeared behind her. Know your place. She said, delivering a hard roundhouse kick, sending her flying towards Naruto. Rasengan, he said as he slammed the spiraling orb into Ishigami's stomach, sending her crashing through the wall. Well, that takes care of that. Naruto said with a grin. Yes, not only have we saved Omote and Tsukune, but we also solved the missing girl's case. Ura said as she placed her Rosario back on. Looks like you two have had a long day. Why don't we head back to the dorms and call it a night? Naruto suggested, getting nods of agreement from the other two. Next day. Tsukune woke up with a smile. Today was his birthday, and although he had a bit of a falling with Omote, she was still his friend. He was about to leave his room to look for the pink-haired vampire when there was a knock on the door. Wondering who was there, he opened the door and was surprised to see Omote standing in front of him with a smile. But there was also something behind her hidden by a drape. Good morning, Tsukune. She said brightly. Hello, Omote-san. What are you doing here? He asked, confused. Usually he would meet up with his friends, so it was a little odd that Omote would come to his room. I just wanted to say happy birthday. She said, shocking him. She remembered. He thought before smiling. Anyway, I have a gift for you. She said, dragging whatever she had with her into the room. She removed the drape revealing a painting of him. "What is this?" he asked surprised. The painting was very well done. Omote blushed a little as she began to explain. "In exchange for being Ishigami-sensei's model she gave me painting lessons. Sorry about being a little distant, but I really wanted to finish this in time. I hope you like it," she told him. Tsukune was silent as he absorbed her words until a full-blown smile appeared on his face. "Thank you. This is it, confess your feelings to her." "Omote-san, there's something I have to tell you," he started. "Yes?" Omote asked, tilting her head a little. Tsukune swallowed the lump in his throat. Tsukune stared at her for a moment before he slowly leaned towards her. Omote unconsciously leaned closer to him as well, her eyes locked with his. "Hello," he started, but suddenly the door was kicked open causing them to jump back, their faces burning red. "Happy birthday, Tsukune," Naruto shouted as he barged into the room. He blinked when he saw the two of them so flustered. "Do you think we interrupted something?" Naruto asked. Ura looked at the two of them before glaring at Tsukune. "I'm sure there was nothing to interrupt. Tsukune knows he would be in a great deal of trouble if there was, right Tsukune?" Ura asked as Tsukune nodded his head frantically. Good, she may have accepted the fact that he was friends with Omote but nothing more. "In the end I still couldn't confess, oh well at least I still have some great friends." Tsukune thought with a smile as he watched his friend smiling happily as they began to celebrate his birthday. Mindscape. "Okay kid, vacation time's over. It's time for some serious training," Kurama said, gaining Naruto's attention. "What do you mean vacation? Have you not been paying attention to all the crap that's been happening since I came here?" he asked a bit annoyed. "I know we wanted to leave the village and stuff, but that's no excuse to slack off. And the problems you've dealt with are nothing compared to the future ones." "What do you mean?" he asked, causing the giant fox to release a sigh. "Don't tell me you forgot about the akatsuki. Remember the uchiha and that shark man? They were after me and I doubt they'll give up just so you can go to school." Naruto was silent as he thought about his words. "You're right, those guys aren't people to take lightly," Naruto agreed. "Glad you're listening. So it's time to step up the training." "Right, what are we working on today, Kurama-sensei?" Naruto asked. "Alright kid, you've been working on controlling your kitsune by foxfire, now it's time to utilize it in battle," Kurama said as he looked at Naruto, who was listening carefully. "Isn't it the same as using fire jutsu?" Naruto asked, but the giant fox shook his head. "Tell me, what's the difference between yaki and chakra?" Kurama asked. "Yaki is more potent and it takes more focus to control compared to chakra," he answered, earning a nod from Kurama. "The same could be said when comparing fire jutsu and kitsune bai. You are able to generate foxfire, but it takes you some time that you won't have in the middle of a battle. So right now we have to work on the speed it takes you to generate the flames, and then we'll work on the size of the flames. After that I'll show you a few simple techniques, and then we'll work on incorporating it with your fighting style." "Alright then, let's go," Naruto said as he began to transform. His pupils turned to slits while his blue eyes seemed to glow. His whisker marks became more distinct while his teeth sharpened into canines. His hair became wilder as his ears vanished in it before a pair of crimson fox ears popped out and a matching tail appeared. Once his transformation was complete, he held out his hands. He started to channel his yaki into his hands until it began to heat up before blue and white flames surrounded his hands. "Not bad, but you'll have to learn how to do it in an instant," Kurama commented. Naruto nodded his head before dismissing the flames and repeated the process. Kurama watched this with a grin. "The kid's getting good. All this training and the spars with that vampire chick have really helped him improve. If he keeps it up he might get his second tail." Naruto groaned as he walked to the cafeteria. He may have been training in his mind, but he still felt the fatigue in the outside world. As he was walking he thought about his kitsune bai. He was hoping to test it out in a real fight, but the only option other than Kurama was Ura and he didn't feel like hurting her too much. But then again, the female vampire was much tougher than she looked, and she looked pretty tough to begin with. Reaching the cafeteria he grabbed a few bowls of ramen before looking for a table to sit at. Spotting 3 familiar faces also eating dinner he walked over there with a smile. "Hey guys," he greeted as he set his dinner down. "Hello Naruto, we haven't seen you for a while. Where were you?" Omote asked with a smile. "Just practicing a new move," he answered as he began to eat. At the mention of a new move Ura looked at him curiously. "What kind of move?" she asked interestedly. During her spars with the blonde she learned he was very unpredictable, coming up with different moves on the spot. "Now if I were to just tell you that would ruin the surprise," he said with a wink, causing Ura to roll her eyes. "So what were you guys talking about?" he asked, finishing his second bowl of ramen. "We were talking about tomorrow's newspaper," Tsukune said. "It's the hardest one we worked on yet, so hopefully people will like it," Omote added. "I'm sure everyone will love it," Naruto said. Plus the fact that a bunch of beautiful girls will be handing them out doesn't hurt. You know, I've been thinking we've been involved in a lot of fights. Shouldn't a teacher have come and said something? Naruto thought, wondering why no one said anything about all the fighting. Now that you mention it, it is a bit odd. Omote agreed. It is kind of weird. Maybe someone will show up to watch the students to make sure no more fights break out. Tsukune said. The four of them continued with their meal while having a pleasant conversation when Ura noticed something. Is something wrong, Omote? You aren't eating? She asked, noticing that her sister had barely touched her meal. I'm not sure, I just don't seem to have an appetite. Omote admitted. Are you alright? You're not sick or anything, are you? Tsukune asked, worried. Omote was silent as she gained a thoughtful expression before her eyes widened and she smiled brightly. Oh, I know. It must be that I haven't had any of your blood in a while. She said, smiling, causing Tsukune to bang his head against the table while Naruto snickered. You should control your urges. Ura chastised, causing Omote to pout. Like you're one to talk. You're just as bad as me with Naruto's blood. She accused, causing Ura to blush lightly. I don't know what you're talking about. She denied. Please, when I asked about it you started to explain the taste with this dreamy expression. Omote said. At least I am able to control myself. You attacked Tsukune every time you see him. Ura shot back, making it Omote's turn to blush. On the sidelines, Tsukune and Naruto watched with a sweat drop as the sisters argued about their blood until it somehow turned into a comparison of taste. I think they forgot about us. Tsukune said nervously. With the way they were talking, he had no doubt that Omote would soon look at him for a snack. To think our blood had such an effect on them. Guess it's the price to pay for being friends with vampires. Naruto said as they continued to watch the girls talk about their blood with a level of enthusiasm they didn't know they had. Next day. Please pick up a copy of the school newspaper. Omote said, standing next to Tsukune as she and the others stood by their stand handing out papers. Read about the disappearing girls and other school events. Kurumu said as she and Yukari handed a paper to a random student with a smile. It's even got a crossword puzzle. Naruto added as more students began to crowd around them, although their attention was more on the girls rather than the papers themselves. Is that Omote-san? She's handing out papers. Kurumu-san is there too. I think I see Ura-san there too. All of these lovely girls handing out papers. Give me one. Me too. I must have one. The shouts continued as a herd of love-struck boys ran towards the newspaper club, hoping to get a paper from one of the school beauties. Look. The paper is really popular. Omote said excitingly. I guess it is. Tsukune said with a smile before he was glumped by a smiling Kurumu. This isn't this great, Tsukune-kun? The blue-haired succubus asked, pressing his face into her bosom, successfully cutting off his air supply. Let go of him, Kurumu-chan. Omote said, staring at Kurumu with an annoyed expression as the succubus looked at her with an uninterested gaze. Why should I? It only makes sense that I would hug my future husband. She said as if it were obvious. Who said he was your future husband? She yelled as the two girls glared at each other, lighting shooting out of their eyes. It's hard to believe that they're friends sometimes. Tsukune thought nervously as he watched the tension between the two girls. His thoughts were broken when a student was sent flying past him until he crashed through a tree. He turned and saw a scowling Ura while a group of students backed away from her nervously. If you want a newspaper then that's fine, but do not think for a second that I will tolerate your lewd comments. She growled out as they nodded vigorously with frightened expressions. Ura-san really isn't a person you should annoy. Tsukune thought with a sweat drop. Stay away from me. A voice shouted. The human looked around and saw Yukari running away from a group of students. She's so cute. That costume, is it cosplay? Stay back, you stupid lolicans. The witch shouted as she avoided them. It's as lively as ever, but the paper seems really popular, but where did Naruto go? He was here a second ago. Tsukune thought as he noticed the missing blonde. At a distance, Jin was leaning against a tree with a newspaper in hand and a pleased smile on his face. He stood there with a relaxed expression as he enjoyed the quiet. Yoiromut. A voice called out. So much for peace and quiet. He thought as he looked to see Naruto walking to him. How many times have I told you not to call me that? The club president asked in an exasperated manner. Don't really know. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be helping us hand out papers? Naruto asked, causing Jin to snort. Please, I'll leave the grunt work to you underclassmen. He said with a smirk. Sometimes I wonder why you're the president. Naruto mused as he shook his head. Well, I thought I would try to get you to help. The newspapers seem to be a huge success and others look like they're having a good time. Naruto observed. That's good. Jin said with a smile. Naruto looked at him and noticed it was a real smile instead of one of his fake ones he used to try and impress the girls. He acts lazy, but the club is really important to him. We may have started off on the wrong foot, but he can be a pretty decent person. Naruto thought. Suddenly the sound of a commotion caught their attention. Walking towards the club was a group of students wearing a black uniform. On their way they pushed and shoved protesting students without even glancing at them as if they were beneath them. "Who are they?" Naruto asked. "Let's go." Grin growled out through clenched teeth as he narrowed his eyes. "He looks like he doesn't like them," Naruto thought as he observed Jin's reaction as they made their way to the rest of the club. Once there they were able to hear a few things. "What are they doing here?" a student asked in fear. "I don't know, but I'm not staying to find out," another said as he walked away. "I don't know who upset them, but they're in a lot of trouble now." "But who would do something stupid like upsetting the Public Safety Commission?" "Hello, my name is Caillou, the leader of the Public Safety Commission," a tall man with long blonde hair said with a pleasant smile, but the look in his eyes was anything but pleasant. Public Safety Commission. Where the hell were they when all those fights broke out? Naruto thought. "So you're the ones who maintain peace around the school. Is something wrong?" Ahmed asked confused. Why were they here when they were just handing out newspapers? She didn't get an answer because Jin suddenly stood in front of her looking at Caillou with a hard stare, one he ignored as he picked up a newspaper and read a few lines. "So you are the new members of the newspaper club. I must admit that your work is well done, but who gave you permission to hand out information like this? We never even inspected it," Caillou stated as he stared intently at the club who were caught off guard at the question. "Don't you realize the trouble you can cause? When a group of kids like you do whatever they please, it can disturb the peace and order of the academy," he shouted as he kicked the stand down, newspapers flying to the air before hitting the ground. Tsukune and the girls watched shocked, although Ura looked more annoyed than anything, as Caillou continued to kick the stand and papers away. Naruto watched as Jin glared at Caillou as he clenched his jaw and tightened his fists until his knuckles turned white. "Learn from your mistakes. We are the ones who protect the school. If you want to do anything on school grounds then you need our permission. If not then you leave us no choice but to take matters into our own hands," he continued. "Stop it. We just wanted to hand out papers," Kurumu pleaded as she moved to stop him. "Don't do anything stupid. You'll just make it worse," Jin said as he tried to stop her, but it fell on deaf ears. Just then a girl with long purple hair walked in front of them and smirked at Kurumu before spiting at her. Whatever it was latched itself on the succubus's wrist, shocking her. "What the hell is this thing?" she asked as she tried to pull it out, but it was no use. "It looks like the newspaper club is filled with lowlifes again. What a foolish little girl. It seems like this club hasn't changed a bit, just as pathetic as last year," the purple-haired girl said with a superior tone which only served to infuriate Kurumu. "What does she mean last year?" Tsukune asked, but Jin remained silent. "Do not think you are above us. Around here we are the law, so you will abide by our word," the girl said as she stomped on a newspaper before spitting on it. "Remember this warning, if you disobey us again you will face our wrath and you will not like the outcome," Caillou said as he made his way with the rest of his group following. "Keto, I want you two on them. If they don't listen you know what must be done," he ordered as the purple-haired girl who nodded. "Understood," she said. Before they could continue a loud shout stopped them. "Hold up you little fuckface," Naruto shouted as he glared at the back of Caillou's head. His words caused the crowd to grow silent. No one has ever spoken to the commission in such a way before, at least no one who was able to walk away unharmed. "Who do you think you are speaking to me in such a manner?" Caillou asked with narrowed eyes. "I could ask the same thing. Who the hell do you think you are, treating me and my friends like we're nothing?" Naruto shot back. Inside his mind Kurama was shaking his head. "Always act first and think later. We're gonna have to fix that," he said to himself as he watched through his container's eyes. "Watch your mouth, boy," Keto hissed as she glared at the blonde, but he paid no attention to her. His eyes were solely on Caillou. "Naruto, get back here right now," Jin ordered. Naruto glanced back at the werewolf and noticed how tense he was. He could tell that Jin was mad at him for talking at Caillou like this, but he could also see worry in his eyes. "Fine, but since you gave us a warning let me give you one. If you even lay a finger on my friends I'll end you," he finished with a demonic growl as he unleashed his killer intent, freaking out the surrounding students, but Caillou seemed unaffected. Naruto and Caillou continued to stare at each other until Jin grabbed Naruto's shoulder and pulled him back. "Sorry about this one, he doesn't know any better. I'll make sure he doesn't act like this again," Jin said. "Very well. Keto, you know what to do," he said as the girl nodded. The PSC, Public Safety Commission, soon left before Caillou turned to a boy with shaggy red hair. "Masato, while Keto watches the club I want you to keep a careful watch on the blonde. I believe his name is Naruto Uzumaki based on his actions. I have no doubt that he will provide us troubles. If he becomes a threat then take him down permanently if necessary," he ordered. "Understood." The one known as Masato nodded. Watching them leave from Naruto's mindscape, Kurama was thinking about something. That Caillou, there is some weird feeling about him, something familiar. Hopefully you didn't bite off more than you can chew this time, kid. Once the crowd left, the newspaper club were the only ones remained. This thing won't come off. Kuruma exclaimed as she tried to rip the white substance off her wrist. Whatever that Keto spit on her was really tough. Are you alright, Kuruma-chan? Omote asked, concerned for her friend as she watched her finally able to remove some of the thread-like material. Yeah, whatever this thing is just really tough to get off, she said before pulling the remaining of it off with a disgusted grimace. Who were those guys? Yukari asked with a fearful expression. During his speech, I believe they called themselves the Public Safety Commission. Based on their actions, I would say they have no problem using force to achieve this peace and order they were talking about. Ura guessed with her arms crossed. You're right about that, Ura-san. They're basically the school police force, Jin said. Then where were they whenever we got in trouble? This is the first I've ever heard of them. Tsukune asked as he remembered Naruto asking about something like this. Because they didn't feel it necessary, so they didn't do a thing, he said. Not necessary. But a lot of people could have gotten hurt, Omote said, remembering how the beauty-obsessed art teacher kidnapped the female students. Who knows how many more would be missing if it weren't for them. They've become corrupt, Jin explained. They're basically a Yakuza gang, making their force do the talking while they collect money and tributes. They said that if we're going to hand out the paper we have to get their permission, right? That pretty much means we have to pay them off. What? How can they get away with something like that? Omote asked, shocked. And more importantly, why didn't you let me handle that bastard? Naruto asked as he looked at Jin only to be on the receiving end of a harsh glare. Because you don't stand a chance, he said coldly. What do you mean I don't stand a chance? Naruto asked. I mean what I said. Those guys aren't like the other schoolyard bullied you've faced. If you go up against them you won't be living for long. The only thing left to do is to burn the papers and show them we're not standing up against them, Jin said tiredly as he ran a hand through his hair. Burn them? How can you say that after all the hard work we put into it? Kuruma shouted as she glared at their club president, but he didn't listen. I don't care. We won't benefit from picking a fight with them. The best thing to do is give up hand. Not gonna happen, Naruto said, interrupting Jin. What? Giving up? Please, I don't even think I'm capable of doing something that ridiculous. The blonde scoffed. I'm not playing around, Naruto. Don't do anything to upset them. I'm not playing around either. I refuse to let those corrupt bastards push us around. This is not the time to play hero, Jin growled out. I'm not playing hero. I'm playing normal person who won't let others push him around, he shot back. The others watched as the two engaged in a staring contest, tension high in the air. The silence was broken by Jin. Fine, but as club president it is my job to do what's best for the club. Since you refuse to listen you leave me no choice. Naruto Uzumaki, as of today you are no longer a member of the newspaper club, Jin said in a monotone voice, shocking the others. Naruto was silent as he stared at Jin. Fine, and I thought you were a werewolf, but I guess I was wrong. You're nothing but a scared puppy, he said, causing Jin to flinch slightly. The two turned away from each other and headed off in opposite directions. What's with him? One moment he was happy about the club and the members, and then the next he let some power-mad freak walk all over him. Naruto, I'm sorry, but I know you. You won't give up on this, and I can't watch this club suffer at the hands of those guys again. Off in the sides hidden by the trees two figures stood. Well, looks like Jin remembers what happened last time he stepped out of line, Keto said with a smirk, while Masato sighed in annoyance. It figures I'd have to watch the one who thinks he's unbeatable. His is going to be a pain, the redhead complained. Well, from what I hear he's a capable fighter, so at least he'll provide you with some fun before you finish him, Keto said, the possibility of Naruto beating them not even entering her mind for a second. Yes, you're right. Now come on, we have a job to do, he said as they left the area. Later on that day. I can't believe that jerk. First he tells us to just give up and then he kicked Naruto out of the club. Kuruma ranted with an angry look plastered on her face. I don't get it. Why would Jin-senpai do that to him? I know those people seem scary, but Naruto Nai is really strong, Yukari said with a frown. I don't know Yukari-chan, but Jin-senpai seemed really serious about this, more than usual, Tsukune said. Who cares? He still didn't have to kick Naruto out. And now he expects us to burn those papers. After all that hard work? I don't think so. Jin's probably just afraid of those jerks, Kuruma said with a tick mark on her head as she remembered Keto's insults to her. Calm down, Kuruma-chan. Let's just sit down and think. Omote started but was interrupted by the succubus. Think? What's there to think about? If the pervert doesn't want to do anything, then we'll just hand out the newspapers by ourselves, Kuruma said defiantly before her face broke into a smile. With great speed she clung to Tsukune's arm. But if you're going to listen to the pervert then fine. Let's go Tsukune-kun, we don't need Omote's help. She said, causing Tsukune to blush as he felt her fists pressed against his arm while Omote grew a tick mark at seeing them. Now let's go. She said as she pumped her fist into the air, dragging the human by the back of his shirt. Sorry Omote-san, I'll make sure she doesn't do anything reckless. Tsukune said as he stared back at the pink-haired vampire who sighed. I hope Ura-chan is having better luck with Naruto. She muttered to herself. With Naruto? Omote. I get it, those guys are tough, but that doesn't mean we have to lie down and take what they throw at us. Naruto grumbled to himself as he paced back and forth at the forest clearing where he usually sparred with Ura. Something must have happened. I might not have known him for long, but he doesn't seem the type to just sit around and do nothing. Naruto said to himself, trying to stay calm. You know, talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. A familiar voice called out. Turning around, Naruto was greeted with the sight of Ura leaning against a tree looking at him with a smirk. Maybe, but I don't remember ever telling anyone I was sane. He said with a shrug. Very true, and if that were the case it would also explain so much. Ura replied smoothly, causing the blonde to chuckle. I just don't understand why you always have to insult me. He said with a pout. It is not my fault you make it so easy. She answered with a careless shrug. So tell me, Ura-chan. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company? He asked curiously. You seemed a little tense after the argument with Jin, and being the kind, loving, caring girl that I am, she chose to ignore the sudden snort from Naruto. I thought I would come here and have a little spar with you. That way you can relive some stress before doing something stupid like you usually do. And there it is. You haven't called me an idiot all day, I was actually getting a little worried. Naruto teased, causing Ura to roll her eyes. I did not think it was necessary to state the obvious. So what do you say? She asked as she got into a fighting stance. What did I do to get a friend like you? He asked with a shake of his head as he got into his own stance. The two stared at each other before charging as they engaged in their spar. With Kurumu and Tsukune. Are you sure we should be doing this? A nervous Tsukune asked as he and Kurumu walked through the school grounds, each with a box of newspapers in hand. Of course I am. Kurumu said as she led the human. Maybe we should go back to the others or talk to Jin-senpai about this. Tsukune continued when Kurumu suddenly stopped. I don't want to burn these papers. We all worked so hard on it, but we had a fun time doing it as well. This is the first time I did something as a group of friends, instead of using my charm on someone to have them do the work. And to have those jerks insult us, I can't take it. It's like what Naruto said, I can't just stand by and let them walk all over us. Kurumu said with conviction, shocking the boy. I had no idea you felt so strongly about this, Kurumu-chan. He muttered. How touching. A voice said. They turned just in time to see something fly through the air before latching onto the box in Kurumu's arms. What? She explained, surprised as the box was pulled away from her arms. They looked up to see Keto standing on some type of thread as she held the box in her hands. It looks like you are more foolish than I originally thought. It looks like plan on disobeying us. I have no choice but to crush you now. She said with a cruel smirk. Give back those papers. Kurumu ordered. I don't know why you think you can order me around. You are nothing to me. Keto said as she dropped the box to the ground and reached into her pockets. I don't know why you guys seem to hate us, but we didn't do anything. Tsukune said as Keto pulled out a packet of matches. You may think you've done nothing, but here you are going against our warnings. You're just like last year's club. The purple-haired girl sneered. Last year's club? Tsukune repeated in confusion. So you don't know? I guess I can give you a brief history lesson. Last year's newspaper club decided to go against us and criticized our work. That caused us many problems, and as you can guess, we didn't take too kindly to that, so we decided to exterminate the problem at the source. She explained. Is that why Jin-senpai wanted us to stay away from them? Tsukune thought. You care about the school's safety, and yet you go around and attack innocent students. Aren't you the only threat to the school? Tsukune asked with narrowed eyes, shocking the two girls. You dare speak to me like that? Keto asked, her eyes narrowed in anger. She pulled out a match and lit it, and right in front of it, she dropped it into the box. The two of them watched as their hard work burned before their eyes. Don't ever talk to me like that. She shouted before she spit out a white thread-like substance from her mouth that wrapped itself around Tsukune's arm. Once you get caught in my thread, you're finished. She said as she swung the thread, and Tsukune as a result was sent crashing into a tree. She quickly made another string of thread and wrapped it around Kurumu's arm and repeated the process. You should have listened to us, but you really gave me no choice. Keto taunted as she began to transform until she turned into a spider-like creature. Tsukune, no. Kurumu shouted as tears began to form in her eyes. She got up in hopes of helping him, but a wave of webbing shot towards her until it pinned her into the tree behind her. Struggle all you want, but my web cannot be broken. Keto said before turning her gaze at the frightened Tsukune. Time to say goodbye. She said but was suddenly blown back by a strong forever to her face. The others looked and were surprised to see Ura standing there with her Rosario missing. Ura-san. Tsukune said, not expecting the silver-haired vampire to be here. Said girl spared him a glance before returning her attention back to the spider woman. Relax Tsukune, I will take care of this fool. She said. Tsukune Kurumu-chan, are you two alright? A frantic Omote asked as she ran to the group. Omote-san too? Tsukune asked as the pink-haired girl ran to him and began working on the web that was wrapped around him. Another intruder. It doesn't matter, it will end the same way. Keto shouted as she shot a web towards Omote, who was too preoccupied with Tsukune. Before it could reach it though, Ura stuck her arm out and the web wrapped around it. Omote, you free these two and leave the little spider to me. Ura said. Are you sure, Ura-chan? Omote asked concerned. Relax, she is no match for me. Ura answered, and to prove her point, she released a surge of yaki that made the people around them feel like they were drowning in it. This power unbelievable. How can she have so much? It doesn't matter, she's still caught in my web. She's finished. Keto thought as she tried to pull her web, but it wouldn't budge. She tried again, but to her surprise she couldn't pull Ura towards her. How about we play tug of war? Ura asked with a smirk as she grabbed the web attached to her wrist. Making sure she had a good grip, she turned to Keto and gave her a fanged smirk. Don't do anything foolish. If you raise your hand at me you'll only get yourselves into more trouble. Keto said frantically, but Ura paid no attention. With a firm tug, Keto was sent flying towards her as she pulled her leg back. You act all high and mighty, but when someone shows they are capable of fighting back you are so easily frightened. Pathetic, know your place. She said as kicked Keto in the head hard enough to send her flying. She looked at the fallen form of Keto before turning to Omote and the now free Tsukune and Kurumu. Are you okay Tsukune? Omote asked. I'm fine, just a little banged up. Tsukune said with a smile, hoping to ease her worries. Thank you Ura-san, if you hadn't shown up I'd probably be in a lot more trouble. Speaking of which, your Rosario is off. I thought only Naruto could remove it, where is he? Kurumu asked as she looked around, but there was no sign of the blonde. He is currently entertaining a guest. Ura answered, drawing looks from her. Seeing the looks of confusion, the vampire sighed before explaining what happened. Flashback. During Keto's attack. I feel much better. Naruto said with a sigh as he stretched his sore muscles. He stood next to Ura, both their uniforms slightly ruffled from their spar. Like I said, you're lucky to have such a kind, caring friend like myself. Ura said with a smirk, earning an eye roll from the blonde. I think you're the lucky one to have a friend like me, after all, which one of us applies the other their blood? He asked, causing the girl to scoff. Please, I've lived 15 years without your blood. Don't make it sound like I'm dependent on it. She said, crossing her arms. Does that mean I can cut you off? He asked innocently. No. Came the immediate response from Ura, who suddenly blushed when she realized how frantic she just sounded. When she heard Naruto snicker she glared at him, but it had no effect on him. Well, isn't this a pleasant sight? A voice said from the distance. They looked around to see Aridid, who was wearing the PSC uniform, leaning against a tree watching them casually. What do you want? Ura asked irritably, not even bothering to hide her annoyance. Now that's just rude. I only wanted to say hello. My name is Masato. I believe you're Naruto Uzumaki, correct? He asked as he walked towards them. And if it is? Naruto asked warily. Then I will have to dispose of you. Masato said simply, as if he were discussing the weather. Really? What did I do to deserve such a punishment? Naruto asked curiously, but kept a lookout for any sudden movement. The boss wanted me to keep an eye on you in case you decided to try something funny. But we both know you will do it anyway, so I figure why wait? Why not just end the target before it becomes a threat? Masato explained with a shrug. I see, that actually sounds like a reasonable plan. Naruto said before casually raising his arm and pulling Ura's Rosario off. Once her features transformed and her yaki was unrestrained, she looked at him curiously. Chances are one of his buddies is walking around. So you go make sure the others are okay while I take care of this guy. He explained, getting into a fighting stance. I do not recall making you leader. Ura huffed. Now's not the time for your stubbornness, Ura-chan. Just make sure Omote-chan and the others are safe. Hurry or you might miss the fight. Naruto said as the vampire nodded, although reluctantly. Very well, apparently these PSC members are in their own league, so I guess I should make sure Omote is alright. Ura said as she turned around and prepared to leave, but paused and looked over her shoulder. Make sure you come out of this alive, Naruto. She said quietly, and if you listened close enough you could hear a bit of worry in her voice. Relax, I'll be fine, I promise. Naruto reassured with a small smile, but it soon turned into a fox-like grin. Besides, do you think I'd really let this guy separate me from my darling Ura-chan? He asked, causing Ura to roll her eyes, but there was a small smile on her face. I thought I warned you about calling me that. You're lucky I don't want to injure you before you get into a fight, she said before running off to make sure the others were safe. End of flashback. And when I came here I saw the spider about to finish Tsukune. Ura explained, but before anyone else could respond the sound of tired chuckling filled the air. They turned to see a barely conscious Keto looking at them, and despite her current state, she had a look of superiority. You willingly left your friend with Masato. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your friend is most likely finished, she said. What are you talking about? Naruto is insanely strong. No way would he lose to you people, Kurumu said. I don't even think we've seen Naruto's full strength yet. I'm sure he's fine, Omote said with a smile, but she was still a bit worried about for her friend's sake. You don't get it. Masato is Kayu's right-hand man. Even I can't compete against him, Keto said, causing them to deflate slightly. Even so, I am confident that Naruto will be able to handle this Masato, Ura stated. Foolish, Keto muttered before passing out. Now, Naruto still has my Rosario, so I better go find him, Ura said before taking off. The others were silent before Kurumu giggled. If she's worried about him she should just say so instead of making excuses, the Tsukuba said, causing the others to smile. Do you think we should follow Ura-san? Tsukune asked. I think so. Naruto's really strong, but I'm still a little worried, Omote admitted. Yahoo! Let's go see Naruto kick the PSC member's ass, Kurumu cheered, causing the others to sweat drop. But Naruto. You're pretty good, Naruto grunted as he dodged a punch aimed for his face. I wish I could say the same about you, Masato said as he blocked an incoming kick before sweeping his leg, causing Naruto to fall to the ground. Naruto quickly rolled out of the way to avoid a stomp before jumping back on his feet. Oh, don't worry, I haven't even started yet, Naruto said as he channeled his Yaki into his legs. With a sudden speed boost he charged at Masato and was now under his guard. Clenching his fist he simultaneously connected with a left elbow to the stomach and a right uppercut. Damn it, Masato growled as he recovered his footing. He looked forward only to be kicked in the face, leaving him open. And it's time for the finisher. Rasengan, he said as he slammed a spiraling blue ball into the Redeed's midsection, sending him flying into a tree. I have to say I'm a little disappointed. I'd figured you'd be stronger than the others I face, Naruto said with a frown. He was about to walk away, but he heard a pained groan. Looking back he saw Masato standing back up, clutching where the Rasengan hit. Oh wow. You're the first person here to stand up after getting hit by that, Naruto praised, surprised that he could still stand after getting hit by the Rasengan. Alright, I admit you're tougher than you look. I honestly thought I could handle you like this, Masato said as his body hunched over and it appeared to be bulking up. His body was soon covered with bluish-green scales, his face morphed into that of a serpent with yellow slitted eyes, his legs seemed to have fused together until it resembled the body of a snake, and his upper body was about twice his original size. The playtime is over, he said, revealing a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth. What the hell are you? Naruto asked, surprised at the creature in front of him. I'm the one who will finish you, he said as he charged at the blonde. Getting back to his senses, Naruto jumped out of the way, dodging Masato's punch. The punch hit the ground, creating a large cloud of dust. When the dust cleared, a crater created from Masato's punch was revealed. Damn, I definitely don't want to get hit by that, Naruto said as he observed the damage a simple punch could cause. What's the matter, Uzumaki? Are you scared? Masato taunted. Dream on, Naruto shouted as he reached into his blazer and grabbed a handful of shuriken before throwing them at Masato. The reptilian creature just watched amusedly as the bladed weapons bounced off his body as if they were harmless pebbles. Ha ha ha. Did you honestly believe those dull blades could pierce my scales? He asked mockingly before lunged at Naruto. Seeing this, Naruto cursed under his breath as he went through a series of hand seals. High release. Flame bullet, he said as he took a deep breath before releasing a large fireball, creating a large explosion once it hit the charging Masato. Naruto watched carefully, seeing if his attack was successful, but was rather surprised seeing his opponent pass through the explosion, the fire doing nothing more than creating a few burn marks. Nice try, he shouted as he swiped his claws at Naruto, creating a few gash marks across the blonde's chest. Damn it. If that wasn't enough, then let's try this, Naruto muttered as he created a shadow clone. Both clones jumped back, performing their own hand seal. High release. Flame bullet. Wind release. Great breakthrough. He watched as the winds grew and intensified the flames, Masato getting trapped in the current vortex of flames before getting caught in a fiery explosion. Did we get him? One of the Narutos asked while the other shrugged. Suddenly a scaled-covered tail shot out of the smoke, ramming into one of the Narutos, only for him to burst in a cloud of smoke. So you can walk on water, create that blue orb, breathe fire, control wind, and now you create copies of yourself. It looks like the surprises never end with you. An unharmed Masato said. How were you able to come out of that unharmed? Naruto asked, shocked. He was positive combining wind and fire would be enough to at least harm him. Those scales must be way stronger than those lizard men who attacked Yukari-chan. Fool, don't compare me to those inferior geckos. I am a basilisk, my race is a legend amongst the reptilian yokai. As for my scales, please, like your pathetic flames could get through them. Masato informed, causing Naruto to frown. If what he said is true, then things just got a lot more challenging. He thought before bringing his hands up to his signature hand seal. Shadow clone technique, he said as a cloud of smoke appeared, revealing 10 Narutos. So you're tougher than we gave you credit for. One of them said as they each took out a kunai. But that doesn't mean we'll just give up. Another said as the clones charged forwards, channeling wind chakra through the kunai. Seeing this, Masato smirked before taking a deep breath. Then he released a dark red mist-like substance that shot towards them. Surprised by the sudden attack, they scattered, trying to dodge attack, but only 3 were able to avoid it as the others dispelled the moment the red mist reached them. The remaining 3 Narutos attacked with their kunai, and much to their delight and Masato's surprise, they were able to cut through the scales. Hissing in slight pain, Masato attacked one of the clones with his tail, dispelling it immediately. Then his claws began to emit the same red mist-like substance before he slashing the remaining 2. One of the dispelled while the other tried to step back, but he was nicked across the shoulder, causing Masato to smirk. Damn it. Naruto hissed as he backed away from another slash before getting slammed by his opponent's tail, causing him to go skidding across the ground. Looks like it's game over. Masato said smugly. What are you talking about? So you got a lucky hit, but I'm far from done. Naruto said, getting back on his feet. Fool, all it takes from me is 1 hit and then I just have to wait. The basilisk said, confusing the blonde. What the hell are you talking about? Naruto asked. Hearing this, Masato shook his head in annoyance before pointing behind Naruto. Reluctantly, Naruto looked where instructed and his eyes widened. Behind him, where his clones were dispelled, the grass and trees were decaying and it spread from the residue of the red mist. Now do you understand? I am able to create and release a highly potent venom. That 1 nick from my claws was enough to inject some of it in you. Even the smallest amount is highly lethal. He explained, and no sooner than that did Naruto feel his vision blur and his body felt a bit unsteady. Looks like it's already taking an effect. He observed. But I have to give you credit. Not only did you make me reveal my true form, but you were able to damage me through my scales. Masato praised with a bit of respect. Kurama, can you flush the poison out? Naruto asked. I've been trying since he mentioned it, but I can't do anything about it. Kurama explained gravely. What do you mean you can't do anything about it? Poison has never been able to affect me much. You've always been able to handle it. Naruto said as he felt himself getting weaker. He was wondering how strong this poison was since it affected him so soon. That's been regular poison, but this one is different. It's laced with his yauki, which is resisting against mine. Best I can do is slow the poison down. I have to say it's pretty impressive, it's barely entered your body and yet it already spread this much. Kurama said. Well, that's just fantastic, I'm so glad you're enjoying this. Naruto thought sarcastically. TCH. Don't get an attitude with me, brat. I wasn't the one who let himself get hit with poison. I didn't let him do anything. He caught me off guard. Naruto shot back. Why don't you try and beat this gut before having a hissy fit? Kurama said as Naruto closed the mental link. What the hell am I going to do? My fire jutsu won't work, even combing it with wind didn't do much. He was able to take a Rasengan in his human form, and I have no doubt he could handle it in this form. I could ray using my kitsune bai, but I won't be able to concentrate hard enough in my current state. Not only is his defense strong, but then there's his poison. Naruto thought as he tried to figure something out. What's wrong, Uzumaki? Finally out of tricks. Masato taunted when he noticed Naruto's troubled expression. Regular Rasengan didn't work, so let's try this. Naruto muttered as he created a shadow clone. High release. Flame bullet. Wind release. Great breakthrough. And just like before, the wind and flames combined together before hitting an unfazed Masato. Didn't you already try this? He asked, annoyed as the smoke and fire cleared. He looked around and his eyes widened when he saw 2 Narutos in front of him holding a large ball of blue energy. A diversion. The Dama Rasengan, Naruto shouted as he slammed the larger than normal Rasengan into Masato's chest. The commission member also noted that the clone slammed their free hands against his shoulders, but paid no mind to it. His attention was focused on the pain he felt when the orb of energy slammed into him. Screaming in pain, Masato was sent flying as Naruto fell to the ground, breathing heavier than usual. Damn it. This poison is really messing with me. He said as his vision got blurrier. Not bad but still not good enough. Masato grunted as he barely stood up. Damn it. That was much stronger than his first attack. Even with my scale armor it was able to damage me this much. But it looks like he's out of hit. Masato observed before he heard a hissing sound. He looked around and he was shocked to find a burning piece of paper on each of his shoulders. Before he could even think he was engulfed in an explosion of blue fire. Not only was it stronger than his usual fire, but in his current state, he had no chance defending against it. My greatest weakness with the Kitsune is the time it takes for me to create the flames. By sealing some of the flames and adjusting the seals, I was able to create a Kitsune paper bomb. Naruto thought as he observed the work of his attack. Impressive. Even I didn't think of using Kitsune in such a way. Kurama praised but frowned when he was answered with silence. Don't die on me yet, Kit. I'm trying to slow down the poison as much as I can. Try and get to the infirmary or one of your little friends. Kurama advised but to not avail. I promised Yura-chan that I would be alright. When she sees me like this she's going to kick my ass. He muttered as he began to black out. Naruto. He heard someone shout frantically, but he was so out of it that he couldn't recognize the voice as he passed out. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.